In this video, I'll show you how to create this cool animated Halloween transition. What you need for this? Adobe Illustrator and After Effects. If you want to sketch it first, you also need a drawing program like Adobe Fresco or Procreate. I also use the latter for the sketch. The techniques I use to create the transition don't only work with this pumpkin, but can be used to create any other transition. So you will learn a lot of helpful tricks and ways to turn your ideas into transitions of your own design in this video. Follow along with this tutorial and I guarantee it will teach you a lot about using Illustrator and After Effects. Let's start with the sketch in Procreate. For the outline of the pumpkin, I'm using this image from pixabay.com. The images downloaded from there are mostly copyright free, but I do not guarantee anything if you want to download something from there yourself. The whole thing saves a lot of time. I then adjust the pumpkin so that the face disappears and form different shapes from the given outlines. Then the shading follows. So I add lighter and darker areas to create the 3D effect of the pumpkin. Now nothing of the initial template is visible anymore. Since the pumpkin is to be animated, I create two different faces in the following. The first one already shows a creepy evil face, while the second one gets even scarier, and the pumpkin opens its mouth wider. Our camera will fly through the wide open mouth later. If you want to copy the pumpkin completely, I'll blend in all the color codes here now. Now the pictures are ready. Export all three versions without a background. I get these images. Now we go over to Illustrator to vectorize the image. This is important because we can later convert the vectors into shapes in After Effects, which can then be animated. As you can already see here, my pumpkin looks completely different in Illustrator than it did before in Procreate. The reason for this is that the colors in Illustrator have somehow completely changed. So I don't have access to strong bright colors at all. If you know how I can fix this, feel free to post it in the comments. This also means that I can't vectorize the graphic on the computer. So I'm using the Illustrator app on the iPad here, which is completely adequate for our users. The following tips will therefore refer to working with Illustrator on the iPad. Now I need to vectorize the basic structure of the pumpkin. To do this, I first draw the large parts of the pumpkin and then gradually add the shading. It's important to create a separate layer for each part so that you can animate them separately later in After Effects. To remove the excess edges of the shading, I use the Shape Builder tool. First select the mouse pointer icon here above and then open the layer window. By holding down the round touch button in the bottom left corner, you can select multiple layers at once. Then go to this icon and select Shape Builder. Then swipe over to the areas you don't want to have. Illustrator will then create the appropriate vectors. Another important tip when creating the vector graphic is related to the orientation of the handles. If you hold down the touch button, you can move each handle independently of the other handle to create sharp edges. When you are done with the pumpkin, the face is still missing. We will create only the first version of the face as vectors and the second one in After Effects. I also add the red eyes only in After Effects. And that completes the vectorizing. Great! To animate the matching layers, now in After Effects, I make a layer out of each part of the face and merge the general pumpkin into one layer, since it won't need to be animated much later. You can now save the whole thing to the Adobe Creative Cloud and download it to your PC. Save the file as an Illustrator file. Then open After Effects. To import the whole thing now, choose File, Import, and then File again. Now find the Illustrator file and select this option. This will import the layers one at a time. Now we want to convert the vector layers into shapes. Select all layers with Ctrl+A and go to Layer, Create, and select Create Shape from Vector Layer. Now you can delete the vector layers. Now comes the exciting part. In the following we will animate the layers we just created so that they merge into the second face. To do this, drag the image of the second face created in Procreate into After Effects and turn down its opacity. Now to create the displacement of the shapes, I animate the position keyframes of the shapes and the path. And the animation goes in the other direction, because the face should not only get bigger, but should appear first. This is a bit more difficult though. For the nose, I create a triangle, which becomes smaller and thus the nose revealed. The important thing here is that the triangle blends perfectly with the image. For the eyes, I let them become a slit, which I soften later in the video by using transparency keyframes. I also create a pre-composition here. Duplicate the eye layer and change it to an alpha stencil to avoid overhanging the shadow. The mouth is probably the most difficult part, because one row of the teeth has to disappear behind the other one. I animate the lower teeth only in their position. By using an alpha stencil of the shape that the mouth should take on the first stage, I make sure that I can push the lower row of teeth behind the upper row without the teeth sticking out of the top of the mouth. The black background is also easy to animate. It first starts above the mouth and then slides into the alpha stencil with the lower row of teeth, so that the sides and upper teeth don't stick out weirdly. I put them in a pre-composition and animate them separately there. For the eyes, I now create circular shapes, which I make glow red using a gradient as a filling. I also let them move slightly during the animation to make the pumpkin look more alive. This completes the basic animation of the face. If that was too fast for you, feel free to watch that part of the video again and reduce the playback speed. So that the video does not become infinitely long, I had to increase the speed here a bit. Now comes the finishing touches. This means that I move the keyframes closer together and adjust the speed curves. These look like this. Before the pumpkin shows its face, I want the background to change from transparent to this dark green. To do this, I create a solid layer and animate its transparency. At the same time, I want the pumpkin to fly in from below, so I animate its position. After that, I want the camera to fly through the mouth, which I achieve using scale keyframes. To make the black back of the mouth transparent, I fade the eyes, nose and mouth from a suitable point where most of the face is no longer visible. To keep the teeth visible, I copy only the teeth without the background and fade them in permanently from where the animation of the face is complete. To remove the annoying little black borders that keep appearing while the animation is running, we now need to change the keyframe interpolation of all existing keyframes to linear. And with that, the animation is done. Now we have to export it. Since we want to use our transition in OBS, we have to add the animation to the Adobe Media Encoder and render it with the WebM encoder. If you don't see it, you can download and install it from this website. Link in the description. Make sure to include the alpha channel. To learn how to set up this animation and all the animations and graphics we have created so far in OBS and on Twitch, check out the next and last video of this series. Now you can animate your own vector graphics in After Effects and create your own cool transitions. Feel free to post in the comments what ideas you were able to make happen. And with that, here on the left you can find a tutorial on Twitch panels to make your stream look more professional. On the right side you can find the final video of this series. If you liked the video, please leave a like and a sub, because I really put a lot of time into these videos. Otherwise, see you in the next video. Bye!